Hard Eyes is directed by Josh Rubin and stars Olivia Holt, Mason Gooding, among others. And this story is set on Valentine's Day, where you have a mass killer that's wearing the shape of hard eyes and going around killing couples on Valentine's Day. And Olivia Holt plays this type of marketing pitch for a jewelry company that she works for, and she ends up meeting Mason Gooding's character one day, not realizing that they both are pretty much working for the same company and everything, and ends up getting to know each other during the holidays. And this, while at the same time as the movie goes along, as you see from the trailers, they're having to avoid the mass killer, who's actually been doing this for the last like 3 or 4 years in the film. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was actually got me on my radar because I really enjoy when we get to see these holiday slasher type films, especially with movies like with Halloween, and My Bloody Valentine and things like that. And the one that really came to mind definitely was My Bloody Valentine from the 80s, with it being set on Valentine's Day, and also with it, the killer in that one having a mask and everything. This one was giving me vibes for that, but it was also giving me vibes of that movie Valentine from 2001. Where that one too was also about a killer that was wearing a mask. In that case, it was a Cupid mask going around killing people. And it seems like we rarely ever get these anymore with these type of movies, because when they do, it's like they're very far in between. And other than My Bloody Valentine, its remake, they have developed definitely a cult following, especially with the original My Bloody Valentine. It's always it's a shame that we don't get to see, like, it's always good to see like these type of slasher films that take place in the holidays that come out every now and then, because I'm really surprised at this point they haven't done other slasher films like this, like Easter or Memorial Day, or I mean, we've gotten other ones like Uncle Sam and some other ones like that are set on like 4th of July. But it's really, I'd be really curious if they ever do more of these slasher films that are set on other holidays, like Memorial Day, Veterans Day, or just kind of if you're going with like something different with it. But I just really enjoyed when we get to see these, because they're really fun and really, ever since the last few years when we've been seeing slasher films been making a comeback with recent, especially in theaters, it's good to see that they try to at least do some other new spins on it. And this was also written by the guy Christopher Landon, who did the Happy Death Day and also Freaky from a few years ago. So it definitely had me curious on seeing how the movie was going to play out. And upon seeing it, I could say this was definitely a fun time. It does have a lot of stuff that you're really familiar with, especially if you've seen from a lot of romantic comedies, and because this really does feel like it's more of a romantic comedy that just happens to have a slasher feel with it. Because if you take out the slasher stuff, it really kind of works on its own kind of romantic comedy kind of vibe, where it's really like that could be set on Valentine's Day, if that makes sense. And so this is definitely one that I could see that it works for its advantage with being a fun slasher film, but it also works as a good romantic type of film in its own way. And so, to get my pros out of the way, I thought the two leads in this were great. Olivia Holt, I've only seen her in a movie before this called Totally Killer, and I really enjoyed her in that one. I've heard that she's really most famous like earlier in her career when she was doing Disney stuff, but I haven't really seen much of her other work. And Mason Gooding, I've really come to enjoy as an actor, especially coming off of the recent Scream movies and stuff. And the guy just has a really good screen presence. And so they not only carried, I felt like both of them really did great with each other, and their chemistry was very on point, and they were funny. And you really get the feel for both of them as they go along, where they kind of come from different backgrounds, where Olivia Holt's character is going through some stuff with just recently put her boyfriend in this movie. And then you have Mason Gooding, that's kind of, we get to reveal some like other later stuff involving his backstory. And it just goes to show that they come from different places, but they all come together as the movie plays. And it is, I'll get into my cons with that, because it does take full where it becomes a lot more predictable as the movie does take its toll with it. But I still really enjoyed seeing them together, and it was still heartwarming, a lot of stuff that they go through throughout the film, trying to being there for each other and everything. And so they were great. And then the rest of the cast was also really great too, to see some other ones that came up, especially Devin Sawa, who I've really enjoyed in a lot of other films he's done, especially from Idle Hands, Final Destination. And it's really good that he's making a comeback. He's been coming up recently with recent years with horror-related stuff, especially from the Chucky TV series, from what I heard. And then also Jordana Brewster, that I've always enjoyed, especially from her early work with The Faculty, the Fast and Furious movies, and even she was one of the things I enjoyed about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre beginning film. And so, it's great to see her again. To get my other pros, this movie really doesn't hold back on the gore, because it gets really brutal to the point where the killer is, killing them with not only crossbows or bow and arrows and stuff like that. But also, he's got the killer also has this giant ass knife that that goes around and slicing people and stuff. And it is what you come to expect with a slasher movie like this. And I do actually got to admit that they actually bring some really good tension up throughout the film, that where you have scenes that play out very quietly in the dark, or it's like very quiet where there's no music playing and stuff. And the atmosphere that it sets, especially with places like in the police station or in like certain alleyways and stuff like that. And even this one part that takes place in like a carnival, it really puts you in the right kind of atmosphere what you want to see on Valentine's Day. And one of the other biggest standouts for me the most was definitely this part later that takes place at this drive-in theater. So this was certainly one to really up the ante when it comes to being with these type of slasher films. So there's that. And then the other thing too is the movie does have a good blend of comedy here and there that I did laugh out, and it was one of those where it wasn't like funny. The jokes can be hit and miss, which I'll get into my later cons, but I still thought it worked for the most part. And then on top of that, I really got to appreciate the way that the movie also kind of puts a spin on some of the tropes that we've seen on some of these romantic comedies or these kind of romantic films and stuff, where there's characters that are kind of aware of certain things. They kind of use like the way that the writing goes along. There's actually points in the film where the characters actually kind of point out the typical stuff that you see in these type of the romantic kind of fairy tale stuff, and I thought that was actually really working for me as it went along with, especially in the beginning. Now, if I had to get into some of my cons, I will have to say that as much as I was really having a good fun time with it, I will say that the predictability is very noticeable in this, because if you kind of really know where the movie's going from the very beginning and seeing certain characters from some of the characters' actions, you pretty much know like how it's going to be who the killer reveals themselves later on in the film. And I think that was a really a missed opportunity that they could have explored with, because there's actually a point where it actually does a gotcha moment that I actually did buy it, but then as the movie kept going, when it gets to the final climax, like, oh, so you're really going to go for that, aren't you? You could have done something really clever here that would have kind of maybe tied it in with something rest, but they go with something where if you've seen a certain character in the film, it's like you already know that character is the killer. And you kind of always put something in your head that, okay, there's something more to this. So that is the kind of the biggest problem with a lot of these slasher films now, is that you pretty much know what come to expect when it comes to knowing who the killers are. And I think that's also been the struggle. That is one of the things I've also noticed in the recent Scream movies, is that they are becoming a lot more noticeable who the killers are in these type of movies. And it's like, why can't they do something a little bit more like clever with at least doing with that part? And even the motivation in this, I will at least it was something that was just there. Like, it wasn't bad or good or anything, but I could definitely see it is very standard, and it's just something that I kind of feel like they could have really took more with doing a better like spin on things. And also I kind of question I also do kind of question the motivation behind the killer in this, because the way it also that the killer is targeting the couple in this, it almost really seems like it's kind of like going against some of the rules that the killer is really doing, if that makes sense. And so that is one of my biggest cons. But then also there are some jokes in there that don't always land, especially some of the stuff that we get early on in the film when it comes to Olivia Holt's boss that's giving her a hard time and stuff. There are some funny moments that a couple of times I did laugh, but I did feel like the boss was a little bit too out there, especially with the accent she has and everything, and it just was kind of like cringe at times. I was like, can we please move on? There's that. And I also did kind of question the vulnerability with some of the characters in this, because there are points where our two leads can get away with a lot of stuff very easily throughout the film, like in certain parts that it does make me wonder why the killer just doesn't up and kill them, right there. And because there's easy access to, there's a lot of points where they could easily get killed. And so, but other than that, I still did have a fun time with this movie, and it's definitely one that I can still consider to at least watch as a holiday type of slasher film, along with, even I have a soft spot for Valentine, and I really do enjoy the original My Bloody Valentine and its remake. So this could definitely make a good fun, watch party with those movies. And so with that, I'm going to give it a compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Hard Eyes, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.